The topic we've got going on today is talking about creating inbound recruiting appointments for yourself. Last week, we talked about recruiting conversations specifically, right? So when you actually do get on the phone or face to face with someone, what do the conversations sound like to put them across the finish line? Today, we're going to be talking about how to become a badass marketer, excuse my French, to get conversations started with people proactively, where you're not having to do any type of outreach. It's more of a let's attract people versus actually going fishing, right? So we'll be diving through that. I've got it broken up into a couple of different sections, right? Again, this format and us choosing to do this like mastermind style like this and less webinar-y where we're just a bunch of floating talking heads is so that as we're going through this, feel free to raise your hand, come off of mute, right? Ask a question, offer some way you're doing it, whatever it may be. It makes these less Wizard of Ozzy and more like collaborative, which is what we're shooting for. So we'll talk about inbound recruiting and why it matters, right? And how to actually create these things. We'll talk about really dialing in your value proposition and making sure that you know how to communicate it to the marketplace. So what that actually looks like. We'll talk about leveraging digital channels. So to give you a preview of what I'm talking about, what I mean that by that is social channels, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. And then you've got things like job boards, LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor, Indeed, Monster.com, all these different places. So how we can actually leverage platforms like that to start conversations with agents. We'll talk about maximizing referrals. I don't know about you guys. When you think about your real estate business, there's pretty much nothing warmer than a client calling you or someone that's a client's friend of yours or whatever it may be, calling and saying, "Hey, Chris, I got your number from Justin Benson. I need to sell my house. Can you come over and do that?" And you're like, "Yeah, you can
Yeah,
do the
be right
same
there.
thing." Yeah, be right there, friend. You can do the same thing with your agents. You just have to be proactive about it and tell those stories. When agents come to you, and we'll talk about this momentarily, when agents come to you with wins, I don't know about you, I see it all over Slack channels that I'm in with other teams and brokerages and stuff. Agents post about wins all day long. If that just stays inside your team and the market doesn't know about that, is it doing us any good? No, right? We got to scream those stories from rooftops. Social proof is the best tool for marketing on the planet. And we'll talk about that. We'll talk about some technology tools to automate some of this stuff, keep track of your candidates, all that cool stuff. And then we'll have time for Q&A at the end and we'll kind of go from there. I'm going to intentionally try and not like just throw up words today because last time we went over a little bit. So we're going to try and keep this succinct so we have plenty of time for Q&A at the end. And then we'll kind of go from there. Does this sound like a plan for everyone?
Or Q&A in the middle.
Or
For
Q&A
real.
in the middle, or Q&A whenever the hell anyone wants to ask a question, right?
Hmm.
It doesn't have to wait till the end, which is good. So let's talk a little bit about inbound recruiting. Before we do that, just for those of you guys that are new here and haven't been on these sessions before, Justin and I started doing these about, I don't know, 2 or 3 months ago now. I'm the co-founder and CEO of a company called Humaniz, and Justin is the same at Shiloh. Two really cool companies. We've both been in the space for a long time. The way to think about it is I am the sales monkey that's gone out and shaken the tree and done all this stuff, and Justin is the technology guru, right? So you marry these two ideas and it's like, oh, cool, cool shit happens.
That sounds more fascinating than nerd, which I used to
Yeah.
just,
I
yeah.
mean, we're both kind of nerdy, but we'll take it, right? Um, so that's why we're doing this. I have two asks for everyone before we jump in. I'm going to keep this short. Everything that we go through today, there may be some new concepts in here that are unfamiliar and like, hey, this is kind of abstract, Chris. I've never thought about it this way. That doesn't mean we're right and you're wrong. It means that there's a million ways to do this and your brain should be open to new things. The other thing is, nothing is a bigger waste of time than showing up at an event like this and learning a bunch of information and getting the slides and taking it in top of funnel and not doing anything with it. If you take one thing from today and get it shipped in the next couple of days, I would count that as a win, right? So that knowing doing gap is super, super important across. So I have a couple objectives for everyone on this session today. Number one, we want you to understand what inbound recruiting is and why it's really important for growing your team or brokerage, right? Either or. We want to make sure that you know how to correctly define and communicate your value proposition to the market, right? It's not as simple as, hey, we're hiring, we're great, come work for us. There's some science to this, and being a good marketer is equal parts science and not science, art, right? I want to walk you guys through digital strategies. So, like LinkedIn, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor, job boards, social media, how you can actually generate inbound recruiting appointments for yourself by using some of these tools. And they're very cost effective and cool at this point in time. And then the last thing is making sure that your real estate team or brokerage turns into like a referral machine from agents. I can promise you that over and over and over again, in my experience running a team, and Justin, I'm sure you had this experience as well. There's nothing better than getting a phone call from some random agent saying, "Hey, Bob on your team gave me your contact info and said I should call you. I'm thinking about making a move." Right? It's just like a come list me call. You can do it if you put those things out into the marketplace and people know about what your value prop is and how your agents are winning. And then obviously systems to implement this stuff and kind of go from there. So let's talk about a little bit between the differences between inbound versus outbound recruiting. The outbound stuff we talked about last week was us going to the market. And what I mean by that is we walked through cold calling strategies last week, scripts, talk tracks, different conversations that you can have, or different outreach methods you can use, whether it be via email or LinkedIn or whatever it was, to go out and start conversations with agents in your marketplace. What we're going to talk about today is attraction. So, how do we get the agents to actually come to us versus going to them? How do we get them to come to us? Now, obviously, there's some pros and cons and differences here. If you're doing the outbound outreach, you get to control exactly who sees your message, right? You get to pick up the phone and call the very specific agent that you want to. With attraction, just like if you're spending money on Zillow or Realtor.com or any leads now, sometimes you're going to get some interesting people, is probably a good way to put it, right? You put your value prop out into the marketplace and spread the word about how cool your team and brokerage is. Sometimes you're going to get some funky calls from people that probably aren't going to be the perfect fit for your team or brokerage. But guess what? That's okay. That's part of the game, right? So, what we'll talk about today is how to make the candidates come to you specifically. The ROI on this, to run you guys through some details, the reason why we think this is a balanced part of any brokerage or team's recruiting strategy is when it comes down to it. Ooh, I just banged my knee funny bone. Did you guys hear that? I hit the perfect part of my knee where my entire foot went numb. That's cool. That's always great to do on a presentation. When you think about what this actually looks like and why these inbound strategies actually matter, there's a couple of things to consider. One, inbound strategies, spending money on ads, right? Distribution, all that cool stuff is usually less expensive than spending money on a full-time recruiter. I don't know if anyone has a recruiter full-time on their team now. I had one in California. She cost me about $5,000 a month plus like bonuses, right? Fully baked, depending on your market, a good recruiter, 80 to 100, right? In most markets, I think for the most part. So usually inbound strategies are less expensive than that. Obviously, you're going to have to do the work, but there's some cost saving there to consider. There's lower turnover. When it comes down to it, I think that agents that come to you are a little bit more motivated than an agent that you go out and get, right? And it's not perfect science, but hypothetically speaking, if an agent comes to you and there's intrinsic motivation to come work for you, they're probably going to stick at a little bit higher of a rate. Justin, have you actually seen any data on this at all, out of curiosity, in your journeys?
Mm, not really. I don't have any like hardcore data on it.
Yeah. It's a tough thing to measure. This is anecdotal and based on my experience. I found that agents that came to me via referral or inbound sources or whatever it may be, usually were a little bit stickier than the people that I went down and like chopped down trees to get to.
I mean, there's like historical data to prove that. It's like branded versus unbranded leads, right? If you have a
Uh-huh.
branded lead that comes to your website because they were searching for Justin Benson, the realtor, they're probably going to transact with me versus somebody that doesn't even know that I'm a realtor that I'm reaching out to in the first place, right? So,
Yep.
uh, yeah, I would agree in theory that like, yeah, that would be true. So,
Yeah. So the other thing to consider from an ROI perspective is usually candidates that are coming to you are a better culture fit. If we're consistently messaging, whether it be through social channels or job boards or however we're communicating your guys' value prop to the marketplace, think about it like this. People vibe with the right tribe. And what I mean by that is I know that sounds so freaking corny, but the idea here is if you're communicating your value prop to the marketplace consistently, those types of people are going to see that online and gravitate towards that, which means they align with it, right? And it's part of their brain and how they're thinking. So that's always good. There's a culture fit there. From a coming to you and having like the bright-eyed and bushy-tailed fire-up agent perspective, usually there's a higher motivation level from someone that seeks you out, which we all know, like motivating agents is like pulling teeth, right? Getting them to actually do things and go for it and do super high levels of activity. Typically, people that are coming to you a little bit more motivated than you going to them. And then obviously, from a time perspective, there's a much shorter recruiting cycle, right? Obviously, there's an argument that can be made if you're going to some super high production quality agent, which like I've recruited those people before. I've worked on people for a year or two before they moved over, right? And like it's just a relationship thing at that point in time. But that goes without saying, someone coming to you is probably going to go through this a lot faster, which if you're, for example, I was talking to like a Zillow Flex team this morning that's in full expansion mode. They're like, dude, it's an all out war to gobble up market share. I got to go as fast as I possibly can. And I'm like, perfect. Then you need to crank the recruiting, right? It just makes sense at this point. So it's a shorter recruiting cycle. And then obviously you've got automation potential, right? You can't automate a robot yet to make cold outbound phone calls for you. You probably could, Justin, but I don't know if the quality's there yet, it making phone calls for people yet, right?
No, not I don't for recruiting calls. No, I don't love that idea. Even for real estate calls, it depends what geographic area of the world you are in, basically,
Yeah.
right? Using a robocall to people in Beverly Hills probably won't go over well for you. So,
I can imagine there might be like a little bit of novelty to it, right? Where like someone's like, "Ooh, I'm talking to a robot,"
yeah, if
right?
you disclose up front, but most salespeople are trying to trick people into thinking that they're speaking to a human, but they're actually speaking to a robot. So,
Yeah. So the idea here being you can't automate outbound, but you can automate some things to make inbound easier, right? Automatic messages going out, automatic calendar scheduling going
yeah.
on, things like that. So think about it from that perspective. So let's talk about value propositions quickly. And there's a little part at this at the end of this section where I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to jot down some notes about your value proposition specifically, right? Communicating your value to the marketplace is not as simple as, hey, we're hiring, right? We want people to understand why they should come work for us. And when I say that, you've heard me say it before on private sessions about actually having conversations with people. But when it comes down to it, we want to explain benefit more than we do feature, right? Outcome more than we do process. And what I mean by that is, there are so many examples in your guys' organizations. I'm looking at a couple of you guys right now that I know the insides of your business pretty well. There are so many cool stories you can tell. We just have to make sure that we're telling and sharing the right things. I have Zillow leads is not the same as Tammy on my team recently got a connection, right? On a Sunday. She showed them houses that afternoon and was in escrow by Monday morning, right? That's the power of these types of opportunities. So you see the story versus the feature, right? So there's a couple of things when we're talking about getting our value proposition really, really dialed in. I want you guys to think about it like this. The simplest, most definitive question you should be asking yourself before you're going to design an ad for anything, right? And this goes for recruiting or pretty much anything. In this example for recruiting, why should an agent choose your team? I don't know about you guys. In most markets, there is so much competition, it's not even funny. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of opportunities for agents in most major metropolitan markets, if not thousands. Knowing that well, they should choose us because we're awesome or X, Y, and Z, they don't know you probably a lot of the time, right? There are so many options out there. And again, if you're like number one in your market and everyone knows you, that's a different story. But for the most part, and for 90% of us on this call, including me in my past life, we were kind of like flying under the radar a little bit. And we have to be able to tell our story. Consumers might not know our story, but the agents don't necessarily know our story. So there's a couple of things outlining and understanding what your unique strengths are. What makes your team different than other places, right? For the most part, and I've told you guys this before, most teams and brokerages have the three same things they hang their hat on, right? It doesn't really change much. Leads, training, and support, right? You can throw in intangibles like commission and culture and shit like that. But for the most part, those are the three primary value propositions we see. Knowing that, you have to figure out how to explain those things in a unique way. Otherwise, everything starts to blend together, right? The agents just get paralysis by analysis. It's the same concept as when a buyer sees 15 houses and then everything starts to look the same and they're like, oh shit, this doesn't make sense. And they get confused almost, right? So something to consider there is what your unique strengths are as a team or brokerage. From a culture perspective, if you haven't done any work yet on defining what your culture actually looks like, this is seriously important, right? We have a team, a family environment, and our culture is awesome in X, Y, and Z. That doesn't describe what your culture is, right? That's you just, oh, we've got a good culture. Obviously, right? Or you wouldn't be on here trying to get better at things. You've got a culture of transparency and education and all this cool stuff. Being able to really articulate what the value actually looks like from a culture perspective and defining what it actually sounds like. I don't know about you guys, and Justin, this is actually something I learned from George Lawton, right? Who's a fucking awesome team leader, excuse my French, in the Phoenix Metro where Justin's at. Highlighting what like career growth looks like on your team specifically, a lot of people have aspirations for more. And I'm not talking about specifically like, oh, there has to be like a direct pathway to leadership. But agents don't want to come in and think, I'm in this role forever and I'm stuck exactly where I'm at. George calls it like preventable churn, right? Where agents will join you. If you don't have like a sliding scale commission model or a pathway for them to become like a pod leader or a sales leader of some sort or whatever it may be, it starts to create a little bit of fuzziness, right? Where these agents will join you. They'll do a couple of transactions, they'll make some money, they'll figure out how to do it, and then they'll go, okay, I'm now going to go to the next step somewhere else. Right. So having these career progression, Justin, is this something you see across multiple teams where there's like a graduating scale for compensation or career growth or?
Yeah, that's psychology for any company,
Yeah.
honestly. Nobody wants to be in a dead end job. It's just the reality, right? So the ability to move up will stop you from losing your best agents, which is why those kind of pod leader, if you're going to use Lawton, they call them regional team leaders,
Yep.
actually, where they're in charge of like their own like group of agents, and they get to be a team leader without having to actually do the hard part, which is, running all the terrible parts of you actually running a business, right? So that's really freaking awesome to make sure that people understand that the vehicle that they are signing up for is not stuck being the 2000 Honda Civic, basically, that maybe they'll be able to trade up for the Escalade one day. So
I'm curious if anyone on this call, and you can throw it in the chat, you don't have to necessarily come off of mute, but I'm curious on this call specifically, do we have any team leaders that have programs like this where there's a pathway for them to increase their commission rate as an agent on your team? So Jim, do you want to talk about yours a little bit? What does that growth look like on your guys' team?
We basically have four levels, right? So depending on where they're at in their career. So if they come in and they're a newbie, they're at what we call, well, they're at level one, and
Hey, I
that's
can
kind of the
call
lowest.
myself.
Oh,
That's
sorry.
kind of the lowest level, which is a 70-30 split on SOI and 50
Yep.
50 on team leads. We basically copied what you told us to do. We literally just changed our commission to what you told us to change it to.
Cool.
And then they kind of graduate, and they have some standards around that, right? Some training that they have to do every single day. And then they graduate to level two, and the training starts to narrow a little bit, right? Instead of 5 days of training, it's 3. And then when they get to level 3, where they're either A, doing 2 deals a month, or B, they have a career X number of deals. They've done like, say, 50 deals, then the SOI is customized. So that allows me, when I'm interviewing someone, like I interviewed someone that had 150 closes, I can't pay her the same price that I'm advertising to everyone else because she has more experience. It wouldn't be fair for her to get the same commission as someone who's done 20 deals, right?
I think this is super important for everyone to hear. Thanks for sharing that, Jim. That's awesome. This gives you guys, and again, not saying it has to be perfect out of the gate, right? But this career growth opportunity, when you're actually having recruiting conversations with people, I can't stress how important that is. Having some sort of variability, right? Being able to offer someone something custom. To Jim's point, I don't know a team leader that wouldn't hire someone that did 150 transactions all time unless they were a bad culture fit, right? Usually that's a pretty good agent to hire, indicative of future results. If you have a flat model where, hey, every agent on my team's on a 50-50 split across the board, period, end of story, it's going to be a tough sell with an agent like that. So giving yourself some variability, like Jim was talking about, is massive. Love that, Jim. Thank you for sharing, sir. And then obviously, as you're doing this and putting together what your kind of value proposition looks like, Proven results, testimonials from agents, measurable results. I'll give you an example. I know a team that advertises in social media campaigns specifically. The average real estate agent on our team does 15 transactions, right? 15 transactions annually, the average agent on our team does. They've even got some ads that are running comparison where it's the average agent on our MLS does 3.3, average agent on our team does 15 annually, right? Being able to compare and contrast gives you a very unique angle. So those proven measurable things tell a really good story purely because do we think agents' bullshit meters are up frequently? Yeah, they're skeptical of everyone. Justin, can you think of the last time you interviewed at a brokerage when you were switching before? Like brokers tell you pretty much whatever they want you to hear, right?
Yeah, definitely. I never had, I guess I was always, this is like champagne problems. We had a very, very successful, awesome team. So we were basically be getting courted and bribed to
Yeah.
come. So very different kinds of conversations like, hey, do you want this really cool office in Scottsdale? We'll give it to you for free, basically.
Yeah.
Like
Love
things
that.
like that, which was really freaking awesome. But, uh, I have seen people that came to our team from other brokerages, because that'll happen, solo agents from a different brokerage coming to our team, talking about all of the same service offerings that are just the same exact thing that are said maybe a different way or honestly not in such a different way, honestly. And they're like that. I was actually just doing something really quick. Jim, you're going to love this. I'm going to post this in the chat here for everybody. It's very important that you guys have visibility and reputation. Both of those are very important. Reputation is the underlying current when agents talk to other agents, like, hey, what should I do? What do people say about Jim and his team in the marketplace? Same thing with George Lawton. If you speak to any agent in Arizona or any broker owner that's been around for a long time, everybody will say that guy is a stand-up, solid human being. And he's been that way for 30 years kind of thing, right?
Wait,
So
Justin, what was the prompt you gave Perplexity for this? And can you explain to everyone what we're looking at right now? Because I think this is fucking cool.
So yes. So at the top, you see, I'm a new agent. Should I join Jim Amon's team? That's all I asked it, right? So what Perplexity did was it just dug through, taking into consideration, hey, you're a new agent. Here's a little bit of bio about Amen Real Estate. Here's some really great information about agent development and the academy that they have. So this is the visibility part, right? You have the reputational side, which is the underlying current, what people say about you when you're not around in the industry, right? But then you have the visibility part that is equally as important because new agents, my action button on the side of my iPhone is hot chained to Perplexity. I don't Google search things anymore. I just do this at all times. So if I'm a new agent, I'm going to come in here and go, hey, should I join this team? Is it like any good? Do people hate it? Like, tell me more, Perplexity. And it's going to go ahead and do this for me. And do this for your own real estate team. This is very, very important because people will be doing this to your team. And you can see what sources it's citing from. You can see exactly what it's pulling up. And then you can start creating content online that will help navigate to the correct messaging that you would like the AI to be giving people, right?
Here's the crazy thing. Usually when Justin says, hey, I'm going to put something cool in the chat, I get those text messages from Justin every once in a while too. And then my head explodes. So this is one of those things to give you guys some context of how you could wrap this into exactly what we're talking about right now. I would encourage everyone on this call to do this today. This is huge. I didn't even think of this.
Well, I mean, look at this, potential benefits for joining Jim's team: access to mentorship from an experienced broker with a proven track record, training through SOAR Academy, established brand recognition in Northern California, systems for online lead generation, and a team structure that appears to support agent growth. Here's some things to ask Jim about. What are your commission splits? What kind of training specifically are you going to give me? So it's preparing the agent for the kinds of questions. And then also down at the bottom, it's even mentioning, I guess, Jim, you are putting a book out this year. So yeah.
It's kind of creepy that it knows all this stuff. It's awesome. That means Jim's doing a lot of content, which is awesome, right? How you could take this, and we're going to deviate for a second just because I love these masterminds and moments like this are why I love doing this, because we figure out cool shit together and then we can light our brains on fire and it goes nuts. Here's how I would be thinking about this. All of these potential benefits, this is all ad copy. right? In my brain, it's good to know this stuff and how we're showing up online. But this write up right here, you could literally take this, copy and paste it into ChatGPT, right? And say, hey, I want you to create 5 different Facebook ad copies based on this write up about who I am and what am I doing in my marketplace and why a new agent should join me. It would be masterful, right? Normally, you have to kind of catalog this stuff together and spend some time compiling it to actually do things like that. This is instant ad copy. And from a marketer's perspective, that's the hardest part is writing copy. And you've got an example of this now, like right in front of your face. So Justin, just to recap, perplexity, I'm a new agent. Should I join blank team? Is the prompt here. I
That's
love
it.
that.
I'm running it on Usay right now, Nikki, actually, because I was just going to send it to you and Anton. So
I love that. So that's awesome. Great little side thing. So there's 4 pillars specifically to compiling your value prop, or you could just use Perplexity and not even have to do this, which sounds pretty cool. There's obviously culture. So what your community, your values are, how you align your brokerage, your growth opportunities. So career advancement and up leveling these agent skill sets. When I say support, I'm bucketing in training tools, leads, admin support, et cetera, et cetera. And then obviously from a success perspective, what a proven track record looks like and some agent testimonials. This is the part where I'm going to challenge you guys for like a minute or two, and maybe you just think about it for a second. Write down 3 to 5 specific reasons why an agent should join your team, right? And not oh, I have leads, I have this, I have this. Outcome wise, and what we just talked about, why should an agent join your team? And I want you to circle one of those reasons at least that your competitors can't easily replicate, right? So, like gyms, for example, I'll use gym. Gym, is it okay if I use you as an example, sir? Gyms, for example, could be the SOAR Academy, right? I don't know what that is. It sounds awesome. It sounds like gyms put a ton of time, effort, and training into like building a really kick-ass training program for agents. Most places don't have something that thorough. They say they do, but they don't, right? And I know gyms is super thorough. That's something that I would be screaming from rooftops, right? That's an ad in itself. Is we have a program called SOAR for every new agent that joins our team, that if you go through the entire thing within 90 days, we guarantee you'll do at least 1 transaction, right? Or whatever it is, right? There's all sorts of cool ad copies. So spend a little bit of time and write down a couple of ideas for yourself as far as what your value proposition looks like. Jim put in the chat, I had an interview from an agent yesterday that found me on ChatGPT. Isn't that crazy? Justin, have you had any of those for Shiloh yet? Where you can
I don't think so. I don't know if I've had anybody find us from there, but like it's like this new concept on SEO, right? So like if Jim's seeing things on that Perplexity post that like he's not seeing something that he really wants to be showing up, it means that you just need to create content around that. But on Instagram, blog posts, on your website, just create multiple pieces of content around it, and then it will show up on the website. So
yeah, the other cool thing to consider too is with the social like ranking on ChatGPT. Essentially, I asked it the other day how to rank better, and it actually gave me some pretty decent feedback. We've been able to attribute, I don't know, probably 5 to 7 leads at this point from like ChatGPT and Perplexity, where like it actually Justin tracks like a UTM parameter in HubSpot.
that's cool.
Which is great. And every time I see it, I send it to our marketing team. I'm like, how do we get more of these? Right. But it plays with the SEO. All right, cool. Thank you for humoring me, guys, and writing down some ideas here. So let's talk about channels to actually generate some lead flow. And I have a little bit of a surprise for you guys in terms of something that's new that I'm going to share with you, and not a whole lot of people know about yet. So stay tuned for that. From a social media perspective, the way I want you guys to think about this is we have 2 primary channels with social, right? And I want you to think it's social media in 2 buckets. We have organic, which is on the left, right? And we have paid, which is on the right. From an organic standpoint, social media, the benefits to it are fairly simple, right? You can build audience and relationships more frequently. This is stuff and just ways to stay in front of your target audience more frequently, right? You can do that from an organic standpoint. We're driving brand awareness. You guys might have brand awareness from like a consumer standpoint, right? People know in your marketplace if they want to sell, like I'll use an example, a good friend of mine, Gary Ashton in Nashville, right? I always, whenever I'm in an Uber in Nashville, I always crack jokes and ask them if they know who Gary Ashton is and blah, blah, blah. The last time I was there, I was in 4 Uber rides while I was in town for 2 days, right? That guy has billboards all over the entire town, and all 4 Uber drivers were like, yeah, don't sell without the intel, which is Gary's tagline on his billboards, right? So this brand awareness, organic social like that can help drive that. Consumers might know who you are, but do agents yet, right? And I would argue that it's different messaging. And then obviously you've got social customer care. That is a broad way or a loose way of saying like, hey, if agents are having transactions with agents on your team now and they're not having a good time, it might be an easy way, or sometimes they'll reach out to you through social channels and X, Y, and Z. From a paid perspective, you can get really granular and target your ideal customers, right? We get super granular on the Humaniz side and retarget lists of people that like fit avatars specifically for brokerages. It's very easy to do. You can drive actual leads with paid things, right? You can direct traffic to landing pages, get conversations started that way. And obviously, it allows you to reach broader audiences that aren't necessarily following you. From an organic standpoint, someone has to be your friend or following you on a channel or whatever it may be to actually have conversations. From a paid perspective, you can reach out and touch people through the digital cyberspace, right? Which is pretty cool. So I want to give you guys, this is the tactical part of this, and I think what people are excited about, some specific examples of social media ads that you can go and run. I've got a couple ideas for you guys outlined here. So there's 2 ideas on this slide, and I'm going to send this to everyone so they have it afterwards. I got balloons. I don't even know why that happens. That's great. The first idea I have for you guys is an agent testimonial carousel. The idea here is really simple. 3 to 4 agents on your team. They don't have to be professionally shot or professionally edited or put together from a video or image perspective. And there's a couple of quick questions you can ask them, right? And it's really as simple as pulling out your phone and writing down some notes or taking some video. Why these agents joined your team? What caused them to actually do it from the front? From a psychology standpoint, that's a hurdle a lot of agents face when they actually see an ad or are thinking about it. What caused someone to jump over here before actually feeling the value? Right? And that will definitely resonate with an audience. How has their business grown since joining the team? This is really, really important, right? When it comes down to it, we want to make sure that there's something tangible that we can show. They joined our team and X happened, which is huge. And then obviously, favorite team culture highlights or team benefits. Sometimes people say wonky stuff on camera that's kind of funny, right? It's really awesome. They have a fully stocked kitchen in the back with an espresso machine, and I drink 10 of them a day. Right? Little things like this, quirky, that aren't necessarily like benefit or outcome, it gives people an insight into what your team or brokerage actually provides from a culture perspective, which is huge. The second ad idea I have for you guys is behind the scenes Reels videos, right? So the idea here is, and again, you can do this on your phone.
A day in the life.
A day in the life. And
they got made fun of a lot, but they do work.
Oh my God, they're so corny. Some of the best converting ads that we've ever done on, for example, for like Humaniz and stuff, the people want to know behind the scenes. And I'll give you guys proof of why this actually is a thing. My wife, God bless her, love her dearly. She likes watching trash television, right? She loves watching like the Kardashians, right? And stuff like that. That's just people they follow them around with cameras and they just go about their lives. The proof that you're looking for and people want to see behind the curtain and veil is reality TV. I promise you, people are far more interested in that stuff. If we hit them over the head with an ad, join our team, here's our value proposition, come work for us, versus, hey, I'm going to give you a behind the scenes look of what it's like to be an agent at XYZ Realty, right? That type of content is what I like to call like a Trojan horse. It's not necessarily a hit them over the head with a value proposition and tell them to come work here ad. It's lifting the veil and giving them a preview of what they can actually expect. So these are 2 ideas I have for you guys. I want to show you a couple more on the organic side and a couple more ideas we can do. This one I see people doing frequently. ChatGPT made me this picture this morning, so I think this is cool. It's getting creepy that it can create images of actual people now. On the organic side, I have an idea for you all. What you do with it is totally up to you. But weekly, putting out an agent spotlight on a weekly basis of an agent on your team. It doesn't have to be super high production quality. It can be 30 seconds or less of a quick video featuring a couple of ideas. If you highlight one person per week, every week, I promise you recruiting appointments will come out of it, right? It's really simple, the format of this. How they got into real estate and why they joined your team, recent successes that they've had or milestones that they've achieved in their own business, And then something quirky. Hey, if you had one superpower and you could get it by snapping your fingers, what would it be and why? I would encourage you to throw a little bit of flair on that last one and figure out what fits your guys' team culture a little bit. Maybe you guys are a team that likes professional sports, right? So what's your sports team and why, or whatever it may be. These little agent spotlight sessions like this, when done consistently, I've done this in the past with my own team. Again, it just makes the experience human and it turns it into less of a, hey, hit them over the head with a recruiting ad and more of a, hey, we're going to highlight what's actually going on behind the scenes. Does this make sense to everyone? Super easy to ship something like this. This takes 15 minutes total or less, right? It's not a super high lift. Okay. So a couple of pros and cons with social ads specifically, ways to think about it. From a pro perspective, doing paid ads, you can get in front of all the agents in your marketplace, not just those that are proactively looking, right? You can get ads served in pretty much everyone for the most part, which is a good thing and a bad thing. If you're really granular, and I know for some of you guys on this call, having known your guys' business pretty innately, when it comes down to it, some of us have some very specific avatars we're looking for, right? We want to get in front of agents that have done whatever, 10 transactions all time. They've been in the business for X amount of time. As long as you have a list of name, phone number, and email, for the most part, as long as Justin, what do you think the secret number is? Like a 500 person or bigger list is going to work on Meta?
I actually don't. This is where I need to learn who
Yeah.
the CRO hat was.
Yeah.
What's best? All I do know is that like lookalikes are the best way to go about things
Yep.
if you have a list of your ideal client profile, basically.
Yep.
So
So in my experience, I figured Justin would know that because that's like a data thing. From our experience personally, you want to use a list of at least 500 people, ideally way bigger, but like at a minimum, 500 people from a retargeting standpoint works well. Reason being is your data is never going to be perfect, and Facebook's good, but it's not perfect at matching. So if you upload a list of 500 people, it only might match 200 of them based on the contact info that you have. So the bigger the list, the better. Things to consider with social ads specifically, ad copy matters, right? When I've used the Facebook ad transparency tool where you can spy on your competitors' advertising, I don't know if you guys have ever played with that, but that's a thing where you can literally look up who's running ads in your market and what they're doing. Ad copy matters. Sometimes copying people is the worst possible thing that you can do. Just because someone else is running an ad doesn't mean it works, right? People spend money on really dumb things. So the ad copy matters. Second, you're fighting for agent attention. I don't know about you guys, but I get ads from every single person and their mom trying to sell me as an agent things. It's pretty much nonstop, right? CE shops, coaches, technology tools, CRMs, everything. So the ads have to stand out and be different. And ideally, they don't really look like ads. That's why I'm such a big fan of behind the scenes content. The next thing we'll talk about quickly for just generating at bats is going to be job boards specifically. So you've got a bunch of them. I don't know why this picture is so blurry. It wasn't when I put it in here. Got Indeed, ZipRecruiter, Glassdoor, LinkedIn, all these different portals. For those of you guys that have ran ads on here before, you know the pros, but to quickly run through them, agents are on these job boards as much as we would like to think. And I talk to a lot of people that are like, hey, they're not. If an agent goes on Google and types in real estate team in blank city hiring, what indexes are all these job boards, right? Sure, you can run ads for that, but there are job boards that are going to index first. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars a year and have pretty much the sickest SEO on the planet. So it's tough to outrank them. It gets you in front of people that are proactively searching, right? The avatars that we've talked about before working really well with online lead teams, B2B or B2C customer service or sales background people, they're used to finding roles on job boards specifically. Now, the cons to it, there's usually a little bit of manualness, right? When it comes down to it, you got to go through and sift through candidates and stuff, which isn't the end of the world. You'll usually get a mix of, I don't know if anyone's ran ads for any type of position recently, but like people just spray and pray where they'll apply at like 500 jobs and not even be remotely qualified. So it's kind of a pain in the ass. And on job boards, usually you're getting newer agents or people that are new to the market, right? Which isn't the end of the world, but if your model's not set up for that, I probably wouldn't recommend this. With job postings specifically, there's a couple of things to consider for the actual copy itself. You need a clear and engaging headline. This isn't like a administrative assistant role where you can just outline the roles and expectations. There's no salary on the opposite end. So I want you to think about job postings as advertising copy, right? It needs to be juicy and tell a story. There's nothing on the other end. There's no guarantee. So we need to make sure that the ad itself is compelling. There's an authentic value proposition. It clearly outlines what they're going to get coming to work for you and what types of outcomes they're actually going to be able to work towards. And lastly, whatever the next steps are, make it easy for them. On job boards, there's a lot of easy apply, which is great, where they can click a couple of buttons and just apply. Ideally, it's not a super cumbersome manual process for them to actually get in touch with you. Okay, quickly, we don't do sales pitches on these calls, but if you want this done on autopilot, this is exactly what Humaniz does. It automatically distributes advertising copy to all those platforms we talked about, and then automatically sources, screens, and schedules interviews with them. So if you want to look at that, fantastic. That's it. This is the surprise part. And Justin, I've sent this to you, and I'm curious and want to get feedback on this. So at Humaniz, and if you want to write this down, right, we're running a free beta right now. There's nothing that is required from a compensation standpoint to be a part of the beta. We're launching our own job board. So the idea is it's a place where real estate agents can go when they are interested in joining or moving, switching teams or brokerages. They can type in their zip code. They can see all the teams and brokerages in their area. And if they're interested, they can apply, right? The idea here is it's niched way down for real estate. I'm going to give you guys the link at the end of this. It is not public yet. We're in super beta mode. We only have, I think, 25 or 30 teams in Miami right now, but we're getting people involved in the beta, getting profiles built on all that cool stuff. So when we go to launch in new markets, we'll have a backlog of people. So you can check that out. All right. Let's talk a little bit about maximizing referrals from agents on your team quickly, and then we're going to jump into some Q&A. So when it comes down to it, nothing is better than referrals. Inbound and outbound, there is nothing better than getting referrals from people on your team that are a part of your culture, period. There's a couple of ways you can ensure that you get referrals from agents on your team. The first is clearly communicating it to agents on your team. I can promise you that they aren't just thinking about, oh, I should refer all my friends here. That's not how it works. There's a little bit of a scarcity mindset that happens with agents where they think if they refer their friends, that all of a sudden they're going to get less and there's going to be more competition for them. So the first mistake we see team leaders making is not clearly communicating why referrals matter and how it benefits everyone on the team. So if you don't ask, the answer is always no. I would encourage you guys to think about it this way too. People need to be reminded far more than they need to be taught, right? And what I mean by that is saying it one time isn't going to result in the outcome you want. It's a consistently harping on it thing that's super important. Regularly recognize and reward the team members that do send you agents, right? It needs to be something that's out in the open and clear that, hey, this is a good behavior. Have you guys ever heard of Pavlov's dog before, the experiment with the dogs and the dinner bell? Has anyone ever heard that story before? The guy would ring the bell, Pavlov, and then all the dogs would start salivating. I'm not comparing agents to dogs, right? That's not funny and that's mean. The point I'm trying to make is you can train people to do certain behaviors by encouraging and rewarding them, right? What's your bell going to be? Whether it be a Slack shout out or some sort of, I don't know, running a contest and giving out a gift card for the most referrals that an agent sent to you. Whatever it is, figuring out something that we can do to actually recognize these people that are doing behavior we want is going to result in us getting more of these things. And then obviously build an environment where referrals feel natural. We want to make sure that everyone understands that it's part of their duty to do these things. This gets a lot easier when you're soliciting and sharing these testimonials that you guys all can get from your agents. This is probably the most tactical, easiest, free thing that you can do in this entire training that we've gone through today. Get out your phone, and you could do this after this session's done, right? You could go out and just grab an agent off the sales floor, whatever it may be, and asking them on camera, what's one thing you love about working here, right? What made you join our team or brokerage? What's something that you thought you were going to get that actually got delivered on when you came here, right? What types of goals have you achieved by working with AIM in real estate? Whatever it is, getting these testimonials from agents, there's a reason why you guys, when you see ads for any product, service, SaaS platform, or anything now, a lot of the time it's not an ad, it's a customer talking about the product itself and almost giving like a testimonial of sorts, right? There's a reason why that's a pattern right now. It's because that social proof is so much more validated and available than just an ad talking about how cool a product is, right? So capturing these testimonials, whether it be video or in text, blasting these things out from rooftops. I'll show you an example of this that I literally saw right before we jumped on here. I don't know how many of you guys know Jimmy Mackin from listingleads.com. Super cool dude. Jimmy is putting on like a masterclass right now, in my opinion, on advertising. If you check out his Instagram story after we got off, Jimmy's never posting listing leads is awesome. Everyone should sign up for it, right? All he ever posts is comments in a Facebook group that are like, oh, I signed up for listing leads. I sent out this mailer and I got a listing appointment. That's all he ever talks about, right? And guess what? That business is growing like a weed. You have stories in your business that you can tell like that. The key is just consistently getting them out there with permission, obviously, right? You don't want to just, an agent sends you a super private text message about how they're winning and they're no longer in debt because of the deal they just did. And you don't want to blast out their personal business. So always do it with permission, right? But blasting out messaging like this is how you win big picture. Does this make sense to everyone? Justin, you have any thoughts here?
Nope.
Cool.
Good to go.
Let's jam and get through this because I want to have time for Q&A. So there's a couple of practical scripts that you can use here. Who's the best agent that you know would thrive on our team? Asking agents for referrals like that is a lot easier than it sounds. If you don't ask, the answer is always no. If there's a way you can make it simpler with like a very simple form that they can fill out, or giving agents a Calendly link or anything like that. And then obviously incentivizing those referrals, whether it be public recognition during sales meetings or gift cards or contests, you just want to make sure you do that. We're going to quickly talk about technology tools in terms of ways you can kind of take care of this stuff. There's only a couple of things that we see candidates being tracked in and people using to actually keep track of candidate funnels in terms of recruiting. Obviously, there's Humaniz. You guys know what that thing does. I see a lot of people using Follow Up Boss now as well, right? Follow Up Boss for recruiting, we see pretty commonly as a tool that people are using. The simplest, most definitive thing that I want you to share right here is the best CRM is the one you use, right? It doesn't matter what shiny thing it is or what tool it is, X, Y, and Z. Obviously, there's some products that are niche down for this, but for the most part, it doesn't matter what system you use. They all do the same thing for the most part, right? The best one is the one you use. All right. Let's take time for some Q&A. I know we went through a lot, and feel free to take a second if you have to think about some questions. You can either drop them in the chat or you can raise your hand or come off of mute. Feel free. If any there's questions, comments, concerns, let's boogie. And I'm sure there's at least one or two. Maybe. Or we went through. Jim, go for it.
So I've been really trying to do the meta ad stuff that you kind of touched on today, and it hasn't gone great. So like I pulled my list of 7,000 people, which translated into about 2,000 that, that Meta actually found, right, that matched.
Yep.
And then we've tried different funnel ads, and the targeted list has been a failure. But when they run it as a non-targeted list and they just kind of say anyone who's a realtor in this area, that has actually done better. So I'm going to switch to doing what you said, kind of making it more, whether it be a testimonial ad versus me talking about I had Zillow and Redfin and whatever else, right? But any more tips that you guys come up with on how to make that work? And I've gone through the Facebook library and nobody's doing meta ads, like to even copy.
They work really, really, really well, Jim. Just like at a macro level, I can share with you that like we generate, I don't know, tens of thousands a week at this point. What works? So what you're talking about in terms of like retargeting, exactly what you said is the reality of you got a list of 7,000, it only matched 2. What I would do, Jim, and maybe you tell your social media person this, is they should do like a 1% lookalike audience based on that match list, and that will make the audience bigger. That's one way to do it. From a targeting perspective, what we found also works really well is using interest-based targeting for real estate agents specifically. If you're running employment ads, which Meta knows, if you have an ad copy that talks about recruiting in any way, shape, or form, it's what's considered a special ad category, right? Which means you can't use demographic targeting. You can't target job titles or anything like that. So interest-based targeting, there's interest on Metas. I was looking at them this morning. You can target people that have expressed interest in a real estate license. You can target people that have an interest in Zillow Premier Agent and Realtor.com Pro. So there's ways you can target people based on interest. It's not perfect, but it works, right? I think a really key thing, Jim, and this might be valuable for everyone to hear too. Are you directing them off of Meta onto like a landing page, or are they capturing the
Yeah,
information on Meta?
we've tried a couple different things, but generally we've tried to, hey, go to this landing page, which is like a funnel
Yep.
that failed. And then, so now we've just done that, book a call with Jim, and that's been a little bit better.
Yeah. What I've found to work really well is instant forms too on Meta. So using the instant forms right on there, because it auto fills their information, right? The key there is making sure that your targeting is really crack shot. Otherwise, you're just going to get a bunch of people that apply that don't have a real estate license. Justin, do you have some thoughts here?
Yeah, I mean, if you're gonna pop people off to your like own landing page, then you
Yeah.
just need to have a very good retargeting strategy, knowing that most people are going to bail off of that page and not fill out the form the first time. So,
Yeah, the retargeting, and that has what to do with setting up like a pixel and all that stuff. If
yep,
you're working with an agency, Jim, they should be able to help you with that stuff.
yeah. But if you're
Conversion.
looking at just like straight up conversion, that's all you really care about ultimately, then yeah, I mean, Facebook even has kind of stated that they would rather you use their form systems and stuff that exists inside the tool.
To
So
give you, Jim, to
The
give
keeps
you,
people
difficulty
on the
with,
platform, which is how obviously Facebook makes money. So
do you have a recommendation for a reasonably priced agency? I mean, most of these agencies are really meant for someone who's spending a lot of money.
yeah,
So they have that harder time with smaller or medium sized real estate teams. There's not really a good niche for that, I've
yeah.
found.
I don't, the agency that we use, we obviously we do all this stuff internal for Humaniz, obviously. I don't have like an external agency that I know has experience with this. I know Lisa Chinati at one point was using what the hell's the name of that company? Jim, I'll message you. Let me ping her and ask her. I'll figure it out for you.
I think it's
Something to
Dippity, I think, is like
dip,
the
there's Dippity. There, fuck, what was the name of the one? It's gonna bug me because it's on the tip of my tongue. I'll get in her system, Jim, and I'll send you the name of the company. Something to consider what Justin was talking about with the lead pages specifically. He's right. Meta does want you to stay on their platform. To give you guys some context for like advertising purposes for like these webinars that we're doing, obviously we're running some cold traffic and stuff. All of the information gets captured on Meta, and it was, Justin, what was it, like 5 or 6 times more cost effective than running them to a landing page,
Yeah.
right? It's bonkers. So there is some truth to the keeping them on the Meta platform. Cool. Any other questions, things people are thinking about? I know we just went through a ton of information. Cool. All right. Well, if any questions come up, feel free to let us know. Couple of key takeaways for everyone on here. Inbound recruiting, right, is a massively doable thing, right? It just takes a little bit of time, energy, and resources to set this stuff up. So don't be afraid of it. Lean into it. You'll get this deck afterwards. Ship some ads and play around, right? Trial and error and see what happens. The best marketer wins. To Jim's point, he didn't see a whole lot of recruiting ads in his market on Facebook, the ad transparency library. I can share with you the amount of money that you have to spend to get traction from a ad perspective with recruiting is not a lot. You can spend $10, $15 a day on advertising and it's not going to kill you, right? Knowing that the ad copy is what matters. And those ads that I gave you guys, right, spelled out, they work. I know that because we run thousands of them at this point, right? So the best marketer is who wins. Done is better than perfect. After this session, take one of those ads, put your phone on do not disturb and ship it. Do it, knock it out, right? It doesn't have to be perfect and there will be good outcomes that happen from it. And then lastly, this is the link I was going to put on that page, but I wanted to give this to you guys. This is the name of the job board. If you want to get your profile created on here, you can. It's free, right? You can click that hire agents thing in the top right-hand corner and it'll take you to an early access page. My ask is simple. Please don't share this link with everyone and their mom, right? We're in like limited beta right now. I'm sharing it with everyone on this call because I know a lot of you and you guys are in our Facebook group and we have proximity so I can get feedback. The more feedback you can give me, the better. Okay, in closing, a couple of things. We won't have a session next week. Justin and I got to mash up and prepare and kind of get together what our next session will be on and ideas. So we won't be doing a session next week. If you have ideas after this session, we're going to put a post in the Facebook group asking what we think the next kind of topic should be on. Feel free to let us know. I think, Justin, if I'm not mistaken, the next thing we were talking about doing was like agent accountability. So if
Yeah.
anyone's like, hey, agent accountability is really, really, really what I want to talk about, feel free to let us know on the Facebook group after this or put it in the chat now. But I think that's what we're going to do next. If you're not in our Facebook group yet, right, I think we can put a link to this in the chat. If you're not in the Facebook group yet, please join it. It's going. April says, please do it on agent accountability. Feel free to join the Facebook group. It's how we keep conversations going between these sessions. We've got like 500 team leaders in there now. It is really awesome, the conversations that are happening there. We don't do sales pitches on these conversations, but if you're running a real estate team in 2025, there's 2 products you should check out because they're kick ass, right? We've got Shiloh, which you can visit at that website right there, shiloh.ai. Agent accountability is the name of that game, right, Justin?
Yep.
And then we've got Humaniz, obviously. You can visit it there. They're both super cool. You should check them out if you want to. If not, no biggie. And that's it. We appreciate you guys coming. We'll send out the recap and recording of this along with the deck with the ad ideas in it. Go do something with it. And if you're not in the Facebook group yet, please join. We'll send that out in the session recap after this as well. And we will see you guys all in 2 weeks.